So let me start off by welcoming everybody today. Thank you for joining us. Really excited to have everybody here. Uh, today's today's conversation is on cyber. Well, it's actually incident response planning by understanding cyber insurance, and that's a critical part of our incident response planning. And we're keeping this session practical and focused on so we can take away some clear, actionable items and information that will be helpful to everybody that's attending. My name is Byron Martin. We're joined today by Tyler, Bowen, Michael, Secrist. Both are from TechRug, our longtime partners. It's who we've gotten cyber insurance from for a long time. We've really appreciated their knowledge and expertise in helping us throughout the years, and we thought it would be great to have them join us today. So thank you for joining us today, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Brian.
We also have Dan Morgan here today with Teknologize as a technical expert. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. But before we do, I just want to invite everybody, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A session. And we'll get to it at the end of the presentation or end of the dialogue here. But yeah, please let us know if you have any questions. And then with that, let me just kind of jump right in. Guys, as I was talking to you, about it a couple of weeks ago, insurance isn't really all that exciting a lot of times, right? It's not super sexy. It's not the exciting stuff, but, like, kind of give us a quick. Well, actually, where I wanted to start is looking at the numbers, because you gave us some statistics that were really really crazy. And so could you guys comment on some of these statistics right now? What really stood out to me were really the industries that were most targeted. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, I appreciate you having us on here. That you hit the nail on the head with, not very many people. There's at least two on here that find insurance kind of, I guess, sexy, or we enjoy what we do, right? And that's the key in today's day and age with cyber and technology and where everything has come as of 2025. And talking about those industries, Byron, there's a lot that happens just when it comes to cyber incidents, cyber claims. But a lot of what we see is kind of the most targeted industries. Is a lot of people think that it's maybe manufacturing, maybe it's the financial industry, maybe it's retail, whatever it is. The actual highest is the professional services. And what we're seeing in terms of claims, just for now, this is all businesses. I think that they consider, small to medium enterprises anything under $2 billion, right? So when we look at these numbers, there's $383 million in claims just in the professional services silo that make up all of cyber claims. Okay, and we're looking at over 1,200 claims themselves. So 383 million divided by that 1,200 will get you the average number for each claim. It's huge, and it's grown every single year that I continue to look at these reports and kind of pull information together and say, hey, what industries are the most targeted? Professional services being number one. Number two below that is going to be, then healthcare. Then we get into manufacturing, financial services, and then retail in these industries. And it's continuing to get worse. And we have to make sure that those businesses are being targeted. We're taking the right precautions to, hey, before it happens to me, because, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I'm in that industry. I'm in one of these top five. What do I need to do to prevent something like that from happening? But you guys can see, the most targeted industries on here, that professional services, the healthcare, manufacturing, financial, and then the retail are our top five and make up, about 75% of the claims.
Well, Michael, one of the things I mean, and that doesn't come out in the news. I mean, what I see in the news and what I think is, well, this large enterprise and organization got hacked, right, or this company. So how's that? I mean, is there a myth to be busted here?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question that a lot of people that I talk to, whether that's done on webinars much like this one, we can educate. That's the goal. That's what I want to do out of every single one of these exercises, is how do we educate people on, hey, the ones that you hear about in the news are just because they're billion-dollar organizations, or they're in that threshold where we're talking 500 million up to that 2 billion number. Remember that I said make up the small to medium enterprises. So it's those that you hear about, because that's what draws attention is, hey, this large company, MGM, got hit for $40 million, and they had a claim, and their policy was only 20 million. They had to pay out $20 million. So those are the ones you hear about. The 1 and 2 person law firms, the guys in the professional services, and maybe they have 10 employees, 100 employees that are, maybe they're doing well, $10 million in revenue, $20 million in revenue. You just don't hear about them. They're too small to make the news. So it happens to every single business that's out there. It's just, are you large enough to make social media and make the internet or not? That's the reality of what's going on.
Okay. So, one of the things that we're noticing as well, and you can elaborate on, is policies and coverage seem to be changing a lot, or regularly, I guess I should say. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more on what and why?
Yeah, so a lot of it changes, based on even these industries that you're seeing, right, that are the most targeted. And so you'll have policies constantly changing. A lot of the insurance policies that you carry, whether it's, we got business owners on here, so you're going to carry a business owner's policy, maybe a workman's comp, you're going to have employment practices, for claims relating to sexual harassment, wrongful termination, discrimination. Those are all going to be very regulated industries, meaning if you look at one carrier for your cyber versus another, or for your business owner's policy versus another, they're all going to be about the same. Cyber is not that way whatsoever. So you may have one carrier in 2024 that doesn't renew cyber policies in 2025 because they had a tremendous amount of losses because of the industries that got hit, that maybe we're looking at right here, that they get out of the business altogether. They don't write cyber anymore. We see it all the time with a lot of our managed service providers like Byron, like you, like yourself, right? Like Teknologize. So we have to make sure that this is a two-way street in getting the policies, right? Everybody wants the insurance policy and you want it to pay out. But to do that, we've got to make sure that we're working with your IT provider when you fill out the applications. So, because if you fill out an application that says, oh yeah, we've got multi-factor, we're doing security awareness training, but then a claim happens and forensics comes in and says, wait a minute, you guys never had MFA implemented, multi-factor. You guys never had security awareness training for your employees being done. Claim denied, So now we get
Sorry,
into this vortex of why pay for cyber.
yeah, right. So are you seeing claims being denied because of this then?
So I've heard, from just other in the industry, other reports, those everything that nobody wants to read, they just want the 3,000-foot view, is that about 44% are getting denied. And whether it's, hey, it's within your policy that nobody reads through there, unless you're Tyler and I, read through your 200-page policy that on 100-page 199, there's the gotchas, there's our escape clauses, there's the I'm not paying out on this claim for X, Y, and Z reason. Byron, you don't get the largest building in every major city by cutting checks.
Wow. So
You
for
got to be
about, I mean,
careful.
that's a significant amount that
Oh yeah.
that are being denied. So I guess really that conversation comes down to making sure, how do we make sure, or how do businesses make sure that their claims are paid out, that they're not denied?
So it's going to come down to a lot of security, have the right security in place. That last line of defense is the insurance. But when you complete the insurance application, send it to your technical team, send it to people that understand your IT environment, right? That's what we want to make sure we're doing, because they're the ones that can truly attest, like Byron, like you, Katrina, or, Dan, you guys can attest to, yes, we have these securities and these protocols in place. Perfect. Now that claim denial, it goes out the window. Now, if there's other things that, material misrepresentation, that maybe they lied on an insurance application someplace else, or, what have you, we got to be careful when we're filling out the insurance applications. Work with your IT provider.
So can we do this a little bit too? Because I want to dig into that, a little
Yeah.
bit more on why claims are being denied, or what to avoid, you know, so we can make sure claims are paid out. However, let's look at the cost of that. I know you touched on it a little bit, but
Yep.
let's dig into the cost of cyber disruption a little bit more. And I know we have some high level figures here. Can you kind of expound on that and tell us what this means, and how maybe that it might impact those that are attending today?
Yeah, and so you're looking at numbers on the screen that these have been updated as of the 1st of 2025. So January 1st of 2025, that's where these numbers came from. So it encompasses all of 2024. Now, back in 2023, we're at just over $1 million for the entire claim that you're kind of looking at in front of you right now, that you can see is well over $2 million. Okay. So in 2023, it was about 1.25 million total. And now for all of 2024, we're not even in 2025 yet. I mean, we are, but we haven't had, the numbers haven't come out yet for the totals of the claims that were paid in 2025. But looking at this, your business interruption, that's the financial impact just to your business being shut down. And the average downtime now is about 14 days, so 2 weeks. The businesses are being shut down and they can't push out products. So if you're in financial, we're getting ready to go into tax season, right? Where if you're in the financial services industry and you can't do tax audits, you can't write tax returns, you can't do those things because the programs that you use or your business is shut down, you're going to lose money hand over fist. We did suppliers same way in the manufacturing industry. It's if you can't push out product that, we had a client that does, or I guess it was one of our managed service providers, their end client. We heard a horror story that client couldn't push out their product. They were down for about a month. They couldn't push out those elbow fitments for shower heads. They couldn't push the product out, where all of their clients just went someplace else. So they were losing, it was about $30 million they lost in that month between the business interruption and what it cost them to just get through this claim out of their own pocket, because their cyber policy was maxed at $2 million. So very quickly they ran out and it impacted their business. So for people on here, take your total revenue and divide it by 52 weeks in a year, average downtime is 14 days. Can you afford to be shut down if you don't have cyber for that 14-day period?
So
now, that doesn't even factor in the recovery, the crisis intervention, talking to legal, doing these different things. That's just the impact to your business. Now we factor in those legal costs. You're about $300,000 to $297,000. And then the incident itself is all of your other, if you're, in the payment industry, your PCI fines and expenses, HIPAA, you're going to run into fines and penalties, and the, cyber extortion's the other one included in that incident. They kind of lump it all together. So factoring all of this in, yeah, we're well over $2 million now.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, what you shared right there it blows me away. Even the 14 days average of downtime because of the incident, and that's not even including kind of the recovery component to it, right? That's substantial. And if knowing a lot of our clients and the business owners I talk with, even a couple days is stressful. I mean, 14 days is just uncomprehendable, right? That is just you can't really grasp what that means. And we've dealt with, incident responses with folks that weren't our clients, but they called us in for help at the time, and it's very stressful. It's very concerning, right? And so, Dan, just from our perspective, I just wanted to ask you a little bit too on, what those, walk us through that, because we've been through those a few times. Like, there's an incident that happens. And then kind of what are the major milestones throughout that process?
Well, I mean, it really depends. One of the first things you do is stop the incident, and if you can stop it. If it's something related to an intrusion, do you cut off the internet? Is it ransomware? Things like that. But, that's really A. But, or 1A, but 1B is really, you need to talk to your carrier. You need to understand what needs to happen. First step, stop the bleeding, make sure that you're going to be okay, and then get a hold of your insurance carrier or whomever that you need to, so that you understand what you can do. Carriers do have different processes and procedures, and but the biggest thing too is make sure you document what you're doing, because that's probably going to be necessary as we move forward with forensics or with recovery or with claims or whatever this is done. So you don't just willy-nilly pull cables, throw things everywhere. Know what you did. That way you can prove it when the questions are asked, because they're going to be asked.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Dan. So let's dig into a little bit more on, okay, so what are these things? What are these gotchas? What do we got to be aware of so that we don't find ourselves in those situations, and so these claims can get paid out?
Yeah, and
I think.
it's
Oh yeah, I
gonna
do.
come down. There you go.
There's a slide here. I thought there was.
Yeah, there's a lot that it's kind of been consistent over the years, even with this slide, is you've got to look at your policy, understand what you're getting, work with an expert. Okay. Now, the changes that we see is exactly what's here on the screen: co-insurance on ransomware and cyber extortion, like a lot like, health insurance. Everybody here, I would assume, has health insurance. So they make you responsible for a portion of that claim, right? Where the co-insurance is saying, hey, if there's a scenario that fits the definition of a claim under your policy and it would have paid out, $100,000. We'll use that nice round figure, okay? $100,000 is the total claim. Your 20% co-insurance that you have on your cyber policy, you're responsible for 20%. So $20,000 plus your deductible will pay the other 80. So you got to be careful and understand that come claim time, you don't find out, hey, we had $1 million claim. Great. That's why we have cyber. That's why we've got this. And then they hit you with the bill that's $200,000 plus your deductible of 10 grand. So you have to shell out $210,000. It's in the contract you signed up for. That's not, your carrier's problem that you didn't read through it. You got to work with an expert and make sure that things like that don't exist in your policy, that you're truly properly covered. Hey, you pay your deductible. We move on. We've got all the right securities in place. Somebody just clicked on something they shouldn't have. Human error is going to happen. It's not if you have a claim, it's when you have a claim. Let's not find out the hard way. So The other part of that too is sublimits on ransomware and cyber extortion. You're going to see those mentioned a lot, ransomware, cyber extortion, that everybody, all the insurance carriers, that's the first thing that they limit on policies. And when it says sublimit, meaning you're paying for $1 million or $2 million in coverage, whatever that amount is, sublimit on page 199 of your 200-page policy says, oh yeah, you're paying for $1 million in coverage, but here's the part that got you, where it says ransomware and cyber extortion are limited to $50,000. That's the most they'll pay out. You're responsible for the other half. Bitcoin right now is trading at about $116,000 a coin. So we'll give you half a coin. You're responsible for the other three and a half that makes up the 4 that the bad actor wants. So you got to be careful and read through the policy and understand what you're paying for, right? And the last portions down there, the definitions of computer system and cyber terrorism. Read through the policy, understand it. Again, work with an expert on is third party. You'd be surprised. I've seen it before where cyber policies say that third party data that's held in the cloud, which, I mean, you guys can attest to your clients, most of it's held in the cloud anymore. That data is not covered under the cyber policy. So if that data is lost, the cost to replace it is not covered under some cyber policies.
Yeah, Michael, and I think that's really good thing to call out, because there's a couple of things that we've hit here that we get frequently. One is, it's just, we talk about cyber insurance and the business owner or whoever is like, oh yeah, we've got cyber insurance. And that's kind of psychologically in their mind, that's it. That's the end of the conversation. We got it. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Let's drill into this. Kind of what you're talking about right now. Let's go understand the policy. What are the coverages? What are the limitations? And I think you hit a really big one here, because that's another part that I hear all the time is, oh, we're protected or we're covered because our data is in the cloud. If it's with their SaaS company that they're using, Microsoft 365, let's just throw that out there, Google or whatever, or if it's a medical clinic and they're using their EHR is cloud-based, then it's all their patient records and everything else is in the cloud. And my concern is there's false sense of security that they are protected not only technically but financially as an organization.
Right, and I agree, 100%. That until the cyber insurance marketplace gets regulated, again, like workers' comp, business owners' policies that are all typically the same. Even, everyone here that, has a homeowners insurance policy, whether you go to State Farm or Allstate or Geico, your homeowners is going to be the same breakdown no matter what. Maybe there's a fluctuation in, Geico says it's going to cost $750,000 to replace my house as it stands, versus Allstate says $800. So there's going to be minor differences. Cyber, it's so unregulated and they're so vastly different that to assume, right? We all know what happens when you assume that, oh, I have cyber policy, I'm good. we can just, we're protected. All our data is in the cloud, whatever it is. We work with the greatest IT provider, whatever. It's a bit naive to think that way right now, that you've got to really sit down with an expert, review your policy, make sure that they are up to snuff like they should be, that everything is, covered how it should be, and that 99.9% of the things that can go wrong are going to be covered under the policy. Otherwise, we get back into this 44% of claims get denied. Why do I pay for cyber insurance? It cost me $10,000 a year, and I still had to pay out $100,000 in my claim.
Yeah, no, and that's pouring salt in the wound, right? For sure.
Right.
You've already gone through all this, and psychologically, as you get started, you're like, okay, well, at least I got some coverage. I'm protected that way, and then to find out you don't have what you have, I mean that's detrimental.
Yeah.
Because I
Keeps
tell a
me
lot
up
of
at night.
I tell a lot of business. Sorry, Michael.
No, you're okay. I was just, you were saying it keeps, the business owners up at night if they have a claim. It keeps me up at night if it's not done right.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm saying, what I tell a lot of business owners is you can survive a lot of business disruption if you have the right financial coverage and protections. And that's where the insurance comes into play, right?
You got it.
If you don't have that, then that's where it becomes much more difficult to overcome. Now, can we dig into a little bit more on, this is just some examples here, but kind of the requirements and where people are missing and failing, whether it's not filling out applications right. You hit that a little bit earlier, but from a technical standpoint and expectations on what the business needs to bring to the table to meet those requirements, let's elaborate on that.
Yeah, and Todd, did you want to go in on this one?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the carriers are requiring all of these things that you're seeing right here, and typically you're going to have to work with your IT service provider to get these things. Your MFA on emails, backups, and everything everywhere is where it's needed. Your email filtering solutions, you're going to have those everywhere. I mean, backups. Everybody needs to have backups. If you get breached, what's going to happen if you don't have that data backed up? You're not going to be able to access it anywhere. So you have to have those backups that are necessary for your policy to take effect. And if you don't have these things in place, then, I mean, as the stat that Michael was alluding to earlier, 44% of claims get denied. And this is the reason why, or one of the major reasons why, is people don't have these things in place. Maybe they don't know that they don't have them in place, but you have to work with your IT service provider in order to make sure that you have everything, all your security is correct.
And I see a real challenge here as well too, because a couple things. And Dan, I'll ask you to comment a little bit too, because you've gone over lots of these applications as well. I'll just say, from my perspective, a lot of times the business owner, because they don't know IT, they don't understand cybersecurity, they just assume, hey, the IT company I use has got me covered. I'm all good, right? Yes, I got everything. But Dan, maybe can you comment a little bit as you've gone through these applications? What do you see, and maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes that either the IT company makes or the business makes?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of mistakes generally. Number one, a lot of times at renewal, they just check all the boxes again, thinking nothing has changed. And I think that's a big piece of it. Is what I've seen is, in 2018, 19, and even early 2020, insurance applications were very simple. Cybersecurity insurance was, do you have email? Do you host it yourself? Do you have antivirus? Do you have a firewall? And it was about 4 questions. It was super minor. Pretty much every business could say yes or no to answer those. But now they're complex. They're asking, do you have EDR? Do you have this? What are you doing for this? What's your business continuity plan? They're asking for MFA everywhere. Well, that becomes a very tough question to answer for a lot of organizations. If you don't touch every service, how do you know each of these services? So I think a big piece of it is just making sure that when these, as kind of been alluded to, when these questionnaires come in, let's fill them out accurately. Let's go through and let's understand exactly where there might be gaps. Because just because you don't do one of these items, it doesn't mean that your coverage is going to be denied. it just means they're going to reference it when they look at the claim. And if you said, hey, I didn't have this, but they still approved it, then you're a lot better shape than if you said, I have this, and for some other reason, forensics proves you don't, which I have seen. And I've seen, back to the other item on the co-insurance, I've seen co-insurance written out now too, where if they use a third-party independent auditor or assessor after the fact and see a vulnerability that should have been patched, it will immediately trigger a co-insurance clause. And so there's even those, and those are the scary ones, because it doesn't matter how well you protect something. There could be a vulnerability, even if it wasn't what caused the incident. If a vulnerability was discovered or an outdated piece of software was discovered in the environment, it could trigger co-insurance. And so you really have to button up and definitely review your policies.
So now let's look at, because I know, Michael, you said that coverage is just varies dramatically between carrier to carrier.
Yep.
And but let's look at kind of some of the things that they typically do cover, or maybe have a conversation on coverage, what's common, what's not common. I mean, this is just a list of kind of general things here, but I'd like to get a little bit more information, because that's a big question, that business owners have. What does it really cover? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, me going through insurance policies, my eyes start, blurring, and I'm like, okay, now give it to me in basic, simple terms. What's it do? What's it not do?
No worries. And, that's why you have us, right? That's why you have me and Tyler and I that, go through these things and explain them and say, hey, you don't read through this every day. There's a lot of the technical side that you'd go right over my head. So, we got to have that symbiotic relationship. And in the insurance policies, these are things that you want to make sure are, and now some of them, they're going to be limited from every single carrier, on the social engineering, we'll get down to it. But you want to make sure that a lot of these are at the full policy limit that you're paying for. Again, we see cyber extortion listed on here. You want to make sure that throughout the whole policy, that if you're paying for $1 million in coverage, that cyber extortion is at $1 million, and not sublimited somewhere within the policy. So the network security, privacy liability, that's a lot of your, hey, you're online, you're connected to the internet, right? Everyone asks me all the time. I talk to thousands and thousands and thousands of end clients on, why do I need cyber? Well, let me go unplug your network. Let me unplug the firewall for a day. I'll authorize Byron to do it. And you tell me tomorrow why you need cyber insurance. So it's your online security, online presence that you have makes your business vulnerable immediately, right then and there. So having that network security and the privacy liability, should be, you surprised, should be number one on your policy. Now, anymore, I don't see limits for it, just in terms of the supplement, but it's a great place to start and make sure, hey, we're responsible for X, Y, and Z. We might have client confidential information that if something happens to that and we get sued, or is there a clause that will pay out on this? Is there something that if we lose the information or they try to sue us that we're covered for? What does our policy look like? The multimedia liability, that's going to be a lot of the more libel, slander, defamation type lawsuits, liability that you could be, responsible for. Extortion, we've covered a little bit on, hey, somebody's in our network. They want, usually it's Bitcoin because it's untraceable and it trades at a very high amount. So the extortion is someone gets into our network. They want me to pay X amount of dollars to get out or release client information that they claim they have. And that's the amount to pay. That's why it's usually the first one limited on any policies that I see that, come over from, what they calls like this, or, our IT providers that say, hey, will you review, Joe, Bob, or Sally cyber policy for me and let me know. Breach response and kind of your kind of the rest of these. I don't want to cover and go through all of them in depth, but real quickly, the breach response and regulatory. Your breach response is more, hey, you have a coach that kind of helps you, more somebody quarterbacking. For us on our side at the TechRug, it's Tyler and I, it's our agents that we've got. Is your breach response. But a lot of policies may include a breach coach to kind of walk you through it and say, hey, okay, here's what we need to do. Send us over the logs on working with your IT provider. Send us the logs on, hey, what happened? Give us a short story on what's going on. We'll talk through it together. A lot of the policies include access to a breach response coach or incident coach. I've seen it referred to as. Regulatory is your kind of the industries that maybe some people are in, more on kind of the, PCI and DSS, same thing. Those two work together on, maybe there's fines and penalties that are associated, that can be covered under some cyber policies that will pay out. Hey, we had this breach, we had this incident, we're not HIPAA compliant anymore. There's fines and penalties associated with it. The policy will pay. Go ahead, Byron.
Michael, yeah, what I'm thinking here is, I mean, even just for me, I'm like, man, you almost kind of need a glossary, right? Just a whole definition of every single one. Here, can I have a little pamphlet on, what's, and maybe that's something that we ought to put together and just have a, hey, what are each of these things, and here's an info packet just for any business owner to be able to go through and just say, okay, because some of this stuff, I'm like, I have no idea, crypto jacking, great. I mean, contingent bodily injury, what the heck? I mean, how's that? Where's that in my cyber coverage? I mean, or invoice manipulation. Well, that one right there, I think there's a lot of, where there's an email compromise and or something like that, where an invoice manipulated, it's, funds get deposited into a wrong account fraudulently. Those are big things, but and I've seen that quite a bit, a lot too. So I mean, it's so hard to. There's so many different analogies, medical or whatever. I mean, I go to the doctor, I'm like, okay, right. I have no idea what they're talking about. My knee hurts. Help me out, right? And so, really being that advocate and guide and helping people understand this, I think is really vital, especially when, it's statistics are showing that 1 in 3 businesses are going to have a impact in the next 12 months, that there's incidents happening all the time. It's a major deal. And it's hard for us from the outside to just, because we go in the aftermath, right? And help with the cleanup and I'd rather help businesses avoid the whole entire situation.
Right. It's, hopefully you can avoid it altogether. And, a lot of these, even the coverages that you're looking at, you got to make sure that they're on policy. So like you were referring to invoice manipulation, the telephone fraud, funds transfer, and fraudulent instruction, that a lot of people may know it as social engineering, right? Is we got tricked into doing something that, we transferred money out. We thought it was one of our suppliers. We thought it was a client. We thought it was whomever. And you really got to be careful and make sure that, one, you're properly trained on how to spot those phishing emails and SMS text messages and things like that. But 2, to make sure these are covered under your cyber insurance policy.
Yeah, I guess I kind of go back to most of the time, hey, yeah, I've got cyber insurance, I'm covered. It's just kind of like that, that what's that mean? And really understanding that. And is there any 1 or 2 things here that really businesses get burned on the most?
Yeah, I would say it's the ones we touched on, that it's a cyber extortion or ransomware, your business interruption. So that's that top line up there, both the business interruption and dependent. Now, the dependent is going to be more your vendors that you may use. So, if Microsoft has an outage and none of us can work, and they're down for 24 hours, it's like, wait a minute, now we're losing money because they had an outage. So, the business interruption, that's a big one. Cyber extortion, obviously another big one. And then the social engineering that I mentioned. Those are the 3 most common areas that you're going to see, number 1, claims, but 2, that most people are concerned. They want to make sure that those 3 areas pay out. And guess what are the first 3 that are limited or removed from most cyber carriers' policies? There's a reason for it.
Okay. Now I've got another question, just kind of going back to something you touched on earlier, I think.
Yeah.
But one of the limitations on war and terrorism exclusion, that, and I bring that up because there's a client or somebody that we were helping at the time, that it was identified that the ransomware they got hit with was from Iran, or in a state that is federally, they're not allowed to pay ransom, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on those risks? Because there's a lot of big countries out there like Iran or others that might be put into that category of war or terrorism. How's that potentially impact the business?
Right. And a lot of the policies, again, you got to look at definitions and you got to read through it and make sure that, hey, if something like a cyber terrorist attack happens, are we covered under our policy? You know, if the financial services industry in the United States is specifically named in a targeted terrorist attack, is something like that covered under your policy? Some of them include it. And a lot of them will say, hey, you know what? This attack originated in Iran. Yeah, we're not covering it. Sorry. You know, it's not a U.S. entity that attacked you or is demanding, you know, $10 million. We're not going to cover this. It's lumped into our carve back for terrorism. So, you know, you have to be careful on how the policy reacts to different scenarios and ask questions. You know, ask questions. You know, everyone talks about the scenarios. You see something in the news on, hey, we saw that, you know, MGM got hit because one of their front desk help people that thought that it was their IT provider, and it turns out that it wasn't. They got tricked, and that led to, you know, $40 million claim. Is a scenario like that covered under our policy? You know, ask questions. You know, make sure you're talking to your agent about your cyber policies. Make sure that you're going through definitions that, you know, hopefully, you know, and working with an expert, we've already done it. You know, we've already read through all these things. I continue to do it all the time. You know, we're always reading through, you know, obviously our own policy form, but all of the carriers. So when we get asked questions like, hey, what's included in my policy? What are these different things on the screen that we're looking at? And a lot like the doctor, Byron, that you talked about, that say, Doc, I need you to dumb it down for me. I didn't go to medical school for 10 years. What are you saying? Are you speaking English? I'm good at Spanish and Italian, but you know, speak English, man. Come on, you know. So you got to make sure that those things are going on. And again, working with an expert that's read through your policy, that understands this, that, you know, a lot of the analogy that I like to use is you're going to your doctor, right? And your chest hurts and you've got a heart problem, okay? You're not going to your general practitioner, you're going to a cardiologist, right? So it's the same thing in the cyberspace. You got a cyber problem. We know that it's going on. We know claims are getting worse. We know the numbers are all up. We see claims continuing to get denied. Don't work with your general agent. Don't work with a general practitioner. Work with an industry expert.
Yeah, that's great advice. Now, we're coming up on, you know, 2026. We're not too many months out, too far out. So how's the industry continuing to evolve? I mean, what's changing? I mean, is there anything that we need to be aware of that's on the horizon?
AI. AI is, we all use it. We all love it. It's great that it helps us. I mean, even this morning, I was coming into the office and somebody next to me is eating their breakfast and reading a book while they're in their Tesla, you know, so AI is as helpful as it is. It's also very scary in what it can do. So AI is the next portion of, you know, for us and being an industry expert, that we're focused on, hey, if one of our clients is using AI and the AI messes up, how does that impact insurance? You know, so as we evolve into 2026 and as the world continues to change, how do we protect ourselves for this, you know, artificial intelligence? And if there's an error and something happens that leads to my business being impacted, I want to make sure my policy covers those sorts of things. So, you know, on our side, we're making changes and doing things, but for the rest of the industry, you know, we hope that they do the same. And we've just got to continue to be careful, continue to educate yourselves and your employees. You know, there are business owners on here and staff on here that if you can identify what a phishing email looks like, your likelihood of a claim happening or going through a cyber incident drops drastically. I think the number that if you have all your employees properly trained, they've done their security awareness training, that number goes from 90% likely to less than 10% of, hey, we clicked on a link, something happened, that led to this ransomware event. Having employees properly trained, I think is got to be the focus going into 2020, the end of 2025 and into 2026. We got to get people educated.
Yeah, we always tell our clients or any business owner that there's always that one person. There's always that one person that will just click everything, you know. And in the past, it was like, oh yeah, haha. But now it's like, no, this is a there's got to be some accountability. There has to be not only accountability but measurable data and that people are abiding by company policy. Like, you know, don't click on stuff. You know, if you know, and sometimes the the bad actors are really sneaky. They're really good at what they do. So I don't blame people for falling victim sometimes. I don't, because they're really, really good, the bad guys at it. However, there's also blatant trends, that users, if they're the same ones over and over and over again that are problematic, then there needs to be some action taken there to correct behavior or do something else to protect the business. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's the business owner's livelihood. How much risk are they willing to assume by letting people haphazardly put them at risk by clicking or not having this training, not being aware, not being held accountable. So, well, thank you, Tyler, Michael, and Dan, for joining us today. We kind of drove right into this, talked about a lot of different things. And any other final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I appreciate you having us here, and I appreciate everyone that's stayed the whole time to listen to us talk about cyber insurance and cybersecurity and what's going on. And just, you got to be careful, protect your businesses. It's what gets me out of bed every day is I'm helping. I know that it's more than just a kind of an insurance relationship, but a personal relationship, a business relationship, and something that I want to watch all of my clients continue to grow and continue to be prosperous and not have a cyber incident completely shut down their operation. So you educate, be aware, understand what's going on, don't be naive, don't assume, get the facts, so that way if the claim happens, a courtroom's based on facts and statistics, and there's no gray area. It's black and white. Either you did it or you didn't. So you got to be careful and continue to educate employees and make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Human error is going to happen. Have a policy there to protect you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody or invite everybody that's watching today, go ahead and subscribe to on our social media channels. We continue to provide educational content and information to help business owners, and would love to have you subscribe, as well as we'll be sending an email with a link to the recording from today to those that attended. And again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being great partners with us. TechRug, Tyler and Michael, they've been helping us for many years, and I know they also, just a quick plug, that they can help other businesses as well, right? And if you have any questions as far as your coverage, your policies, your applications, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information is here, or you can use the QR code to schedule an appointment. And if you are interested in talking to Tyler or Michael, let me know. I'll hook you up. I'll connect you with them. And like Michael said earlier, they're experts in the cyber coverage industry and not just general, business insurance. And so that's where they bring in real strong partners, is that's what they do. They focus on this and they work with people throughout the nation. So appreciate it very much, gentlemen. And we'll go ahead and sign off, and looking forward to talk to you again soon in the future.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.